Discord. Oops. Go. Save that. Alright. Let's see. Experimental sushi belts. Let's go to my channel. There. Excellent. Perfect. Alright. So, I mean, what are the most common things that we would want to be sushiing? So I've only done a little bit of sushi in the past. Some things probably are better to try in sushi. Like science seems like something you would want in sushi. And in fact, you might want a sushi in multiple levels, like one level of sushi for the stuff that was coming first, like the intermediate items, and then put that onto a new sushi belt for the advanced items. So I guess it'd be like you'd have a sushi belt for the advanced circuits, engines, and electric mining drills, which would all go into blue science. But then you'd have a separate sushi belt for each of the ingredients that go into advanced circuits, or another belt for all the ingredients that go into an engine unit. That seems to be the most likely use of sushi. A lot of items, I mean, even something like an assembly machine, probably, well, maybe assembly machine 3 would be good for sushi. But a lot of these you can just put into a production line. Like, you don't even have to have a belt. You could have, because you don't need 5,000 assembly machines. You probably need like 100 at once. And there's no rush in finishing that. And I feel like sushi is better designed for a little bit of a rush. I guess it's flexibility. How much you want completed. And then something like a centrifuge seems impractical to have a sushi. I mean, 100 concrete, 100 advanced circuits. It just seems impractical. I'm going to try sushiing some science up. We'll skip green. We'll go to blue. Blue seems like such a hard science to get going in general. So let's pretend that we're just making 2 blue for now. Sure. 2 blue, and here's the incoming sushi belt. So we want every ingredient that goes into blue science to be on this belt. I'm just going to do basic building blocks, because by the time you have blue, you probably only have regular inserters and assembly machine 2s. There's no reason to try and do anything more complicated than that. So you have to assume, in some regard, that these assembly machines aren't going to pick up everything they need in the one go. So you would have a rotating belt that would have items on it. And one of the problems that would happen with a rotating belt is that one kind of item would get clogged onto it. So for instance, you might have a bunch of engine units, because they're actually relatively easy to make. They don't require nearly as much iron as an electric mining drill. And not as many steps as advanced circuits, so it's possible that you would have a lot of electric engine units on here. If that were the case, you would want to make sure that you had something correcting what was on this belt. Now, I think popular sushi choice is to do some circuits, and I'm not going to, because I think circuits aren't very helpful for people. Using some wire connected to some combinators and all that stuff in order to regulate what's on this belt. I just don't think that that's a necessary step, because you can mechanically restrict what's on this belt. I think that's mechanically restricting it is much better than actually restricting it. What do I mean by mechanically restricting it? Well, in this, let's do it like this. Yeah. You would have set up some boxes, maybe they'd be steel, with the ingredients that are on this sushi belt going into them. So you would have some filter inserters pulling out only the one kind of item. Yeah. So this one would be pulling out fan circuits, this one's pulling out engine units, and this one's pulling out the drills. Okay, so you could end this too, but as a safety precaution you would just want it to keep going around. So this would be what the belt would look like at that point. But then of course you need something putting the items back out onto the belt, which means that this would look more like this. Oops. So this belt would be, should I use, yeah, medium is fine. This belt would be picking up, picking up all of the things that were on it, that were going to the blue signs, storing it in the chest, and then putting it back out. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward there. And then you would limit these chests. Well, let's say you don't limit the chest right away. So this would be just a, if you had coming out onto this line, all three ingredients coming out, this would loosely save everything back up into these boxes. Now, obviously, this is not free from any problems, because if these boxes fill up, you would end up having an issue with anything coming on the line. So if you had the chips coming in, the engines coming in, the drills coming in on these three lines, you could still have a problem with what's on this, what quantity of items are on this belt. In fact, the belt could stop. Everything could stop moving on it, and you would end up not pulling anything. This would become a lockdown. I think the best way to handle that is to limit what the machines are making based off of how much is inside these chests. And by that, I mean that's no combinators, that's just wire then. You're just connecting these chests to a system that's keeping track of their total content. So you'd be like, alright, if this had 60 chips in it, all of the inserters putting chips onto a conveyor belt would stop. And if this one had 60 engines, all of the chests making engines would stop. So I think that might be the safest way to limit what's happening here. Alright, so let's I'm just going to do the 2. There's no reason to do any more than that. So these aren't going to be the right percentages at the moment. I don't want to deal with the correct percentages at the moment. I just want to deal with what should work. So we're looking at chips. Well, actually, we don't even need to do it this way. Experimentally, what we can do is just put 3 chests down, and these we will assume are somewhere earlier in the production line. So this is symbolic of red chips being made. So we'll just put a bunch of red chips in there. I probably need to remember what the God mode creation thing is, but yeah, I should look that back up again. So this one, but as an example, this is going to have red chips in it. This one's going to have the drills. We'll do the bottom one. Oops, that's not gonna work. Did it work? There we go. And this one has the engines, which you can make by hand in God mode, even though I think it requires a machine to make them normally. So these are just representative of something in your factory making red chips, something in your factory making engines, something in your factory making drills. Yeah. So we'll just put those out onto a line. Well, that's fine. Oh, that's ugly. Let's fix that. I could have made this better. A lot better. Alright. And these would be inserted. Now, I'm not going to turn those on just yet, because what I want them to do is to only ever put something onto this line if, say, these boxes are empty. We'll just do it that way. So we can take some wire. Here, you need to go in there. And connect the wire to the boxes and then to one of these poles. So now you can hover over the pole and you can see exactly how much is inside these chests of those items. There's nothing in them right now, but let's say we take 45 of these and put them in here. So at this point it tells me that there are 36 drills in all of the chests connected to this. And those are just going to keep getting picked up and put back on the line. Like that. Just picking it up, putting it in, and that's putting it back in the chest. So it's going to hover around, it looks like 20 something, infinitely. I mean, these are already picked up 3 each. And then we can say, we can drag another wire from this over to this inserter, saying, alright, we don't want this inserter to do anything while there is more than 0 of these drills sitting in this box. So if there are any drills in this box, this inserter stops working. So the enabled condition is for drill, you check for drills, and you say if the drills are less than, well, we don't have to do 0, we can say 10. If the drills are less than 10 in this box, this is enabled. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. And you basically do that for all of them. So they're all connected to this line, so you can just drag another line from here to here to here, because they're all on the same network. And you say the same sort of thing for this. This is not going to work if, what was that again? What am I looking for? Not drills. Engines, yes. Engine units are less than 10. And this one is chips, less than 10. You can set that to whatever you want. So at this point in time, if I provide electricity here, you see the drills aren't putting anything on the line because there's more than 10 here on this. And those are going to keep putting stuff out until such a time that more than 10 appears on here. Now you can see this is a current issue with it, because I have these inserting onto the outside and these are coming in on the inside as well. I can solve that loosely by doing something like this. There's several ways that I can solve this, but this solves it for right now. And you can see the red stopped. Even though I have plenty of red in here, it stopped because this is more than 10, this is more than 10, and in fact they're all more than 10, so they're all going to just stop doing anything for now. And you've basically regulated what's on this line. And you can see right now they're all inserting their contents out onto the line. And in all practicality sense, I don't think this, well, at least while you are outputting 3 per action, you see there are 3 items getting put on the line for each extension of the arm. And that's later in the game. That's actually later than when you have these, obviously, because you probably only be having 1 or 2 while you're trying to get blue science up. You can only fit so much on the line, otherwise they won't be all functioning. In fact, you would end up with a line, if you had 4 items being put out, you'd end up with a line with everything in the first 3 boxes getting put on the line, and the last box not getting put on the line at all. So this system won't work for anything that has 4 items on it. At least it won't work in this manner. Something like this would work, but not in this exact manner. Because you can limit the stack size to 1 if you wanted. And that would make it so that you could still easily do this. And then you can even turn these into fast inserters, so they'd each be putting 1 on the line, and there'd definitely be enough space for sets of 4, basically, or sets of 6 or whatever. Well, there'd be nothing more than 6 in vanilla, but yeah. So then all you would then have to do is create what you wanted for these items to be on the line as well. So you would have a separate section for red circuits being made, a separate section for engines, and a separate one for drills, all getting put onto this line. Let's do the easy example. Let's do the drill. So what does the drill make? It's mostly iron and green chips. Alright, I can do that. Yeah, alright. So we'll assume the green chips are being made somewhere else, although in the perfect sushi world you would then have another sushi belt making green chips. But for now we'll just go with drills. So this is making drills. And then its belt, which will be right here for now. Oops, he's turned the wrong way. Well, wrong for the way that I was expecting it to be. Will be like this. I'm not space saving with this right now. You could definitely space save with sushi belts if you wanted to. There is no space being saved at the moment. So I'm going to do the same thing across here with its ingredients and more inserters like that. So again, we're looking at the 3 things that it wants, which is iron, which seems relatively simple, gear wheels, and chips. Of course, these need a ton of pieces of iron, but whatever. And then outputting onto here and then going into this. I'll take 2 of those because it's going to be picking up a lot of stuff. I'll place another one of these down. We'll put some chests down for the final thing being put down. Of course, these would be going onto their own sushi belt because you might want to have a belt that collects the items that you would need in your factory in general. And while you don't use chips or engines in your factory, you will be using drills when you go mining, so you might want to have like a whole separate belt where these also go out onto the belt elsewhere. And you can have these go onto the belt that they're coming out on, actually. So the ingredients are coming out here, you could put the drills back onto... I'm going to do that. I think that makes more sense. Oops. So 2 of you and then 1 out here. So yeah, didn't think that through. It'd be like this. There we go. Yeah, you'll get lots of beautiful little circles like that. So if this is that, I no longer need this to be connected. Oh, I've disconnected the line. There you go. And apparently they operate freely if there's if the condition, yeah, because the condition would be 0 if there's nothing connected at all. So that makes sense. All right, power, and so it's a similar situation where you would have the inputs, and again, these inputs are coming from some other set of systems, although the iron would probably be coming pretty easily along some sort of bus that you have from your mine. But yeah, fine. This is not beautiful, but I'm just trying to get a point across here. So if this has iron in it, well, let me connect the prevention stuff first. So you could use the same color, connecting all of the chests to this, and this to all of the inserters. And then you're going to tell this one to stop working if there is not enough, or if there's too much iron. We'll give a larger number this time, 100, because you actually need a lot of iron for these. And this would be gear wheels, we'll say 50, and this is green chips, and we'll say 20. So let me go ahead and make some of these. Where's my God mode now? Okay. Chips and gear wheels. That was the right page. There. So those. Whoop. I just pulled them all back out. Gear wheels. Well, I guess I could have just done that. Alright. Oh, no power. And then we need to have these connected. Well, this is going to pull drills off the line, because the drills are being made, and then those are going to go onto here. Alright, so this is pulling all the drills off the line, putting them back onto here. So at the moment now, you can see the drills are coming in on the inner side of the belt, and everything else is getting put onto the outer side. Looks like gear wheels and iron are still going because they take up so much. So let's just put some more in. Oops. And then what you want to do is limit how much these inserters right here, the ones that are putting drills on the line, how much they are operating. Because you want this to stop making drills when you have too many drills in here. So you're going to grab this wire, the red wire that you originally had connected over here, you're going to grab that and you say, well, I want you to stop doing anything if there is too much drill in the system. And we'll do 10 again with that. And that's you. Also drills 10. So in theory, when this is all set up correctly, it'll stop. Well, let me change how much this is. This is stacking to override stack size to. How much do these take to finish? 3? Yeah. Override stack size will go down to 1. This leaves more room for iron and gear wheels on the system. So as you can see, these have finished, but they have 2 sitting in their output and they're not being placed on the line. You can see there are no drills on this line because right now there are more than 10 drills in this chest. But if I take these out, suddenly they're outputting drills on the line. You can see the drill got put up to there and the system is going back in full effect. And you can do the same thing with the science coming out here. I put it onto this line. The drills onto this line. I could put the science out onto this line if I really wanted to, and I do. There you go. And then I can send it to wherever science is going, which might be its own sushi belt for all I know. Oh, except I don't want it to pick up everything. I just want it to pick up blue science. So that's going to pick up science off of there. And then you could have these output lines connected into the logic system. And tell them to not operate, not start making blue science if there's too much blue science in the system somewhere else. So you would have a chest maybe somewhere else that was collecting blue science beakers, and if there were more than 10 or 20 or 30 in that chest, you'd say, alright, stop making blue science. Now, a lot of times you try and balance this stuff out, but you don't have to. You can just make exactly what you need when you need it. And this helps in situations where you're overproducing or you're overachieving with the amount of machines that you have making something. So if you had like 10 machines making drills and you thought you needed 10 machines making drills, you don't have to pry them up off the ground because they're making too many or anything like that. You can just have them put into the logic system of your sushi belts and they would never make more than they're supposed to. I've run out of source materials here. It's the only reason this is stopped, but yeah, I think this is a good idea for something larger. So what would I want it to look like then if I tried to do this on a larger scale? I can show you one of my designs for it. It's where is it? Is that it? There it is. This is one of the more successful ones I think I've dealt with recently. I'll just put it there. Alright, some robots going to get the pieces. So this is that on a larger scale. Yes, my little minion robots. Let's put some infinity chests here. This is iron. Those are both iron. And they're carrying fast stuff onto it. And this is copper coming in. That's just slow. That's just a chest that I don't have right now. These are all steel chests. Why aren't you constructing? I don't know. Fine. Steel chest, steel chest. I need to place some more. Where's my provider chest? Oh, I don't have any of these in there. Alright, fine. There you go. Alright. Is that everything? Alright, and then we're missing a couple inputs here. This is plastic for the red chips. And I think we have steel somewhere. Steel? No, no steel. What am I missing? Yeah, steel. Where's the input for that? Oh, right here. Aren't you infinitely putting onto there? Set backwards. Great. So you see the red chips are coming out onto this line. The only thing that was missing was engines, which are now producing. Okay. So you basically have the same thing in a micro. This could have been made into a better rectangular shape. Like I could put this up here instead of down here. But you have the iron coming in to make electric mining drills. These chips are being made from a combination of iron and these copper wire here. And this copper wire is being made directly into copper wire and green chips, because red chips need both green chips and copper wire. You have the outputs for here and here. These are the outputs for the electric mining drill. They're never going to pull out from here unless, and you can come all the way over here and look at it, unless this chest is at the right level, so what, less than 200. I set a pretty large number. So that means that these are constantly operating, hopefully. And that's only because I'm producing enough green chips and gear wheels for them to constantly operate. I think you needed to have a red conveyor belt for that to happen, but I don't remember if that was the case. It might have been possible for a yellow conveyor belt to have done it. So these are making all of the necessary quantities of gear wheels. So it's like how many? 5 gear wheel every 2 seconds. These are making more than that. 2 is not enough, 3 is enough, etc. You know how that ends up working. But more importantly, these are being throttled by the need being set up here. And these red chips are being throttled by the need of this chest. You can see 1,000, but obviously it's going to keep going. And the blue science is even being throttled by the amount of blue science in this chest. Right here, 300. So once this blue science hits 300, these will stop producing blue science. But you can see the output right here, all of the ingredients. This is engine units, this is the drills, and this is the red chips. All the ingredients are getting put right onto this line, going onto this sushi belt with everything on it, and then the blue science is just getting placed right back onto the same line. So you end up with the only things going into this system are iron, copper, steel, and plastic. Seriously, that's all that's going into here. This whole rectangle right now has nothing else going in, and it has one output, and that output is blue science beakers. I think that it's useful to compare this, though. I like sushi belts. They're pretty, but they're complex. So this is a good time to compare it to another kind of science that I have definitely done, and that's blue science strip, which is right here. I'm going to place it like this. I don't know if we have enough materials for all of that, but we'll see. So you'd want 6 of these to compare, or no, I'm sorry, got 12 going here. So you'd want 12, well yeah, 6 total of these, so 12 total blue science to compare this favorably with what's going on in this one. So if you want the same level of output here as you get here, it's 6 of these. Maybe I should go ahead and make 6. Well, yeah, let's do that. That way we can actually... Actually, I'm just going to look at what the production level for this was. In the last 1 minute, how many blue science we're making per minute. 33 blue science per minute. 32. Somewhere around 32 blue science per minute. And that makes sense. This is making 1 blue science every 12 seconds, but it's doing it at a speed of 0.75. So 4/3 of 12 is 16 seconds. So it's making 1 blue science every 16 seconds. We've got 12 of them. So that's, let's see, 12/16 every second times 60 seconds. Oh, it seems to be 45. Maybe I did math wrong somewhere around there. Yeah, it does seem like that should be making 45 per second. So maybe I've got something, because this isn't operating. I don't have enough red chips in this system. Looks like they're not making it to, so this is actually not balanced. There should be more red chips being made here than are currently being made. So this could be operating at 45 if I had more red chips here, 45 blue science every minute. It's only operating at 33 right now. And of course, once this hits 300, because we have that throttle with the wires, it'll stop. You can see how many. See, it's the number of engines is just being kept up with. So what's missing is the red chips. And actually, it looks like the drills are going to maintain around 80 something, because they're also being used at the same speed. So anyway, we'll copy. Well, we won't copy this. We'll take a look at what's going on. Let's save this as sandbox science sushi, and we're gonna load science strips. I'm gonna take a look at the blue science strip. I don't know if, here it is. So this is making 6. So this is 6 of them. So if this is operating correctly, it would make at least 15 blue science per minute. That's what we would want it. So what is this doing? This is a sushi-less science rectangle. And you can see this is taking up actually more space than the other one is. And that's because this has a lot of redundant machinery. It's all draining on the electricity, but there is nothing that can go wrong in this system. The only thing that can go wrong in this system is if there's not enough input down here. And again, you've got the inputs of steel, iron, copper, and plastic. You definitely need more iron than you do of the other stuff. The copper is only split here because it had to be brought up into 2 lines in order to fit into this system. But you have the drills being inserted directly into the science buildings, but then you have the red chips and the engines being brought on a middle line as they're being made. Engines down here, red chips being made right here. They're all being put on this line, being pumped down to the end. That means all of these are operating at full capacity all of the time. And you can tell because these lines are always full. So that means right now there is a good chance to take a look at what the production per minute on Blue Science is. So it's 23. 23 per minute, which makes sense according to the maximum. I said it's 45 per minute for Blue Science. That's how much 12 blue machines would make. And this is only 6, so it's half, 22.5 per minute is being made. And that means if we doubled this whole thing and we had 12, and that's a large area, don't get me wrong, it's a very large area, it's the square basically, making 12 Blue Science. But that would be making 45 Blue Science every minute. Which is enough to keep up with 6 red assemblies and 5 green assemblies of science as well. So you'd have basically one, well, I mean, and that's based on the speed of these, but if you consider these to be at crafting speed of 1, you'd be basically making 1 every 1 second. It's 3/4 of the rate because 45 every minute instead of 60 every minute, because these are only operating at 3/4 crafting speed. If they were the level 3 machine, I believe the level 3 machine is 1.25 crafting speed, so you'd be making 1.25 beakers every second, and you'd be making 75 beakers every minute for every color. So you'd have 12 of these. You'd have similar science strips if you wanted of green and red. So this takes up a lot more space than the sushi belt, but this was easier. So what do you want in the end? What is your goal in the end? Do you want it to be easy to have made, easy to have extended? So if you wanted to go from 12 to 16, well, I just wanted to add 2 of these. I can easily add 2 more. Basically, if I didn't already have the blueprint, I would just be, alright, I'm grabbing this. Yeah. And voila. I've added 2 more. That's all I had to do. Now, with robots, of course, it's a lot easier, but in a non-robot situation, it's still relatively easy to add more to that than it would be to add a little bit more to almost any other system that's not in equilibrium. The sushi belt is always in equilibrium, and depending on how you make it, if you make it a very strict sushi belt like the one that I showed last, then let's go ahead and look at that now. So this sushi belt is always in equilibrium, right? If you added 2 more machines here making Blue Science, you're not going to get it because you're not making enough. Well, ignoring for the fact that I'm not making enough red chips here. But if I were making enough red chips, you're not going to get enough. You'd have to extend everything. If you added 2 more Blue Science, you'd have to add probably 2 more engines. You'd have to add, 2 or 3 more red chips. You'd have to add 1 more engine or drill, and then for all of those, you have to add their requisite inputs, and that just doesn't fit. If you've already made this sort of tight situation, you can't just simply add whatever you want to it. You have to basically duplicate the whole thing. So you have to go from making 12 to making 24. That's the best way to extend this. And at that point in time, it's, you know, you're bringing all the inputs for it elsewhere, and then you're connecting. So you have little islands of science. You have a rectangle here, rectangle here, rectangle here, and you have the inputs going to all of those things, hopefully with enough in it. But you could have a situation where the sushi was much looser. You could have I mean, arguably that's not the safest way to do it then. So if you wanted to be able to have extendability in your sushi, you'd have to not have this kind of system where it's staggered. You'd have to have everything all on one line, and then you're dealing with the issue of how much fits on that line. The total number of ingredients that would be in a blue science sushi belt are pretty large. Well, we can look at it pretty easily here. You've got the blue science itself, the 3 ingredients in it, that's 4. The 3 ingredients that go into engines, 7. Which is a duplicate of one of these ingredients, so this is just 2 more ingredients, which is 9, plus the wire, making it 10. Plus the plastic, 11. So you have 11 total kinds of ingredients that go into blue science. This is again assuming that your inputs are steel, iron, copper, and plastic. So 11 total kinds of ingredients. Oh, I missed one. I missed copper. Yeah, I just missed copper. So 12. Alright, so with 12 ingredients, how much fits on one yellow line? Well, a yellow line has a capacity of 13 items per second. One belt holds, was it 3, a little over 3 on the left and 3 on the right per square of space? I think it's like 3.1 or something like that. So 6 per square of space. You would end up with lots of gaps in production in that situation, and it'd be hard to regulate how much was on the belt in a larger system like this. We could try it though. We should try it. Alright, let's try it. So we're looking at what all is actually being made in the system. We're making blue science, making engines, making red chips, and drills. And then what goes into those? Pipes and gears, and wire, anything else? Green chips. Let's put the green chips there. So let's say we wanted this all on one line like this. Everything is on one line. It's all just going around. Have an input on everything and an output on everything. Just extend this one more. I don't want that affecting the throughput. And some power poles. So the only thing coming into this are the base ingredients. Put here. Oops. Oh, if I just make the stream onto here, there's not going to be enough space for anything. If you have a bus going straight onto this line, it is going to be crowded. Let's just do it that way for now. So we've got iron, copper, plastic, and steel. Now, in theory, I would have wanted these to have gone around the outside. Alright, let's do that. Yeah. So we want the belt to go around. Let's take the outputs. Or maybe I'm doing it wrong. The belt goes around the outside. How do I want this? Okay, you're a little bit in the way. In this situation, the outputs would then get placed on the outside while the inputs are being placed on the inside, and they'll never take up the same space. And so I didn't need to do any of that. Oh, I kind of wanted to go this way. Oh my gosh, it's much harder to lay stuff when you're not physically doing it as a person on the map. Okay. And then these are going like that. You could still want logic on this, because you don't want those putting anything into the system if they're not needed. See, but with this belt, you have to count what's on the line. You have to use a combinator. Otherwise, what ends up happening is right now, in this situation, there will be so much steel on the inside of that line by the time this is done. Because steel is the least required item in this list. So you can see they're placing everything out onto the belt. They're picking up what they need, and eventually you'll make a science. But what ends up happening is over time there will be no. And I can speed this up actually. Let's see if I can find that again. Excuse me. Speed 10. There it is. Why am I not able to? Am I frozen? There we go. What the frick? Let's see. Look how slow the outer loop is going now. Right, so actually I think we're good. That's already in stasis. Nothing else is being made. Look what happened. This is what happens if you don't have any controls on it. You end up with too much plastic, too much steel. Oh yeah, plastic. So basically not enough iron. And the only way to control this is keeping track of what's on the line. I like that there's one red chip. And look how much science was made. None. Never received enough iron gear wheels down here at either of these to have made any of them. So in the end, if you don't have at least some sort of control on your sushi belt line, you end up with just not enough space on the conveyor belt for all the kinds of things that will need to be on there. If you're not taking into consideration everything on the line, and if you're micromanaging the contents of this belt with combination circuits, you're restricting the total throughput. So yes, this all will make one blue science, but at what speed? This one blue science, you might get one blue science in, 30 seconds or more. Because you're having to deal with everything moving through this system before it finally makes one science. Yeah, there's a sort of the washing machine, dryer thing going on, where everything's in process. But it's still going to be throttled by the fact that right now there's only one gear wheel being made in this system, and that is not enough to keep this moving fast. I think it's the gear wheel that would slow everything down, because this needs gear wheels and this needs gear wheels. And you can see over here, this is loosely the correct distribution. Of course, this is for 12 of these, not one. You only need basically one engine. Everything else you need technically less than 12 of. So, no, I guess maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you do calculate the contents of this belt correctly, you can make this operate at full speed. Oh, maybe I should try to do that then. That'd be pretty nice, right? I'd like that. Oh, but you do run into a big situation here, and that is if you are making gear wheels here, putting them on the line, this is always going to take the gear wheels. The only way to stop that from happening is to keep track of... Yeah, this will always take it, because this takes very little time to make it. And one of these is not enough to completely fulfill the needs of one drill. The only way that this would stop taking the gear wheels is if it ran out of, or if it had, if it ran out of electric circuits probably, or iron plate. Either way, that'd be the only time that this would stop making gear wheels and putting them basically directly into the drill. And so you would end up with the outer line of this filled with drills and no engines. You'd never make an engine, you'd just have drills. So you'd have to basically count the number of drills on this outer line and make sure it was never more than 2 or whatever. If there's ever 2 drills, then you would stop putting drills onto the line, and then the drill machine would stop picking up iron gears once it had 2 drills in its output slot. So once there were 2 here, it would stop picking up iron gear wheels, and they would then go past it and go to the engine. Regardless, that requires you to count the number of drills on this line. And probably that would be it. But it does lead you to needing a set of combinators that basically are going to keep track of time, the number of materials passing underneath one square of this in the course of the amount of time it takes to go rotate one time around here. So it would be like it would wait all the time until you'd have an indicator item on the belt, like 1 uranium or whatever, and that would be your timer. And when the uranium goes around and reaches here, that would be 1 circuit, and it would count the number of drills that would also go around in the same amount of time. And if that was ever 2 or more, this would not be putting anything out onto the line. It would stop as soon as it was at least 2. And that's a complicated setup. That is not simplifying anyone's life. So I look at it as this is the least amount of work. It's not balanced, but it will functionally pull what you need onto the line when you need it. This is the best way to get it balanced if you want the exact number of machines operating. Obviously this one's not balanced because I apparently did the wrong number of red circuits. This is an early prototype. But this is the best balanced situation. And the sushi belts, the science strips, are the least balanced, but the most likely to constantly be operating. So these will always be at full capacity, always creating blue science. And this is the biggest nightmare. But it will always be exactly what you want it to make. It might take up a little more space than some things could. It's actually possible that a bus system would take up less space depending on where you were sending, for instance, green chips to, or where you were sending other red chips to. But I think in the long term, this would be a better system than just a bus system. But the navigating the complexity of it is completely unnecessary. There are other ways to do it that are just so much easier and very little cost to you in the game. So honestly, if I were to be a proponent, I'd still be a proponent here of the science strip. I still think it's a great idea. I do like this because it's pretty. I like the prettiness of it, but arguably the science strips are even prettier. And this type of thing could work if you were trying to make an ethical and green factory where you're making exactly what you need and only what you need the whole time. And I think that's an interesting design philosophy. It takes up a lot of space, just as much space as buses would and everything, but it's still an interesting idea. It might be worth trying to make a factory that was all sushi all the time. Alright, well that's it for tonight on sushi belts. My suggestion would be to avoid them at this juncture. They're not worth the effort. Yeah, do something nicer, like science strips. Check out my video on science strips if you want to see more about making them. This is definitely the most successful one because it's the easiest one, but all of them could be turned into successful, beautiful rectangles of science. Alright, that's it. Signing out. Happy time with your factories.